discussed in the class, and then in the very next class we may have a recap of maybe say a couple of minutes on what we discussed on the previous day, and subsequently we will go for the next topic. Now in today's class we'll basically start with discussion on bivariate regression model. I'll start with regression model, which is bivariate in nature in the sense that there is the dependent variable and one independent variable. Here you can see I have given an example with the dependent variable being quantity demanded and the independent variable being the price of the commodity concerned. So to make it more specific, I can write price of the commodity. Okay, and there is random disturbance term. We have already discussed in earlier classes. Why do we add the random disturbance term? What purposes does it serve? And how inclusion of this random disturbance term actually converts a mathematical model into a statistical model. So we are starting with the model yi is equal to alpha plus beta xi plus ui, where, for example, yi stands for quantity demanded and xi stands for price of the commodity concerned. As we discussed in the earlier classes, we make some assumptions about the random disturbance term. I have listed some important assumptions here. The first assumption is that this random disturbance term follows normal distribution. We had discussion that why this normality assumption is very, very important. And also in one of the classes I mentioned that subsequently we will be carrying out statistical test to see if the normality assumption about the random disturbance term is valid. We'll discuss about some related statistical test. But the issue here is that we assume the random disturbance term, that is U, to follow normal distribution. And as we discussed, if this normality assumption is violated, we will not be in a position to carry out the statistical tests. So ensuring that this normality assumption is valid is very, very important. The second assumption is basically zero conditional mean. Expectation of ui given xi is equal to 0. I'll discuss subsequently that if expectation of ui given xi is equal to 0, does it mean that u bar is equal to 0? Here simply we are saying that, or it is being assumed that conditional expectation of ui is equal to 0. And this is a very, very important assumption about the random disturbance term for having, I discuss later on, unbiased estimators. The other assumption is basically this one, that the conditional variance of the random disturbance term is constant. The conditional variance of the random disturbance term is constant. And then these successive values of the random disturbance term, they are independent given x. That is, mathematical expectation of ui uj given xi is equal to 0. We also assume that the independent variable here, that is x, is independent of the random disturbance term. So the basic assumptions here are, sorry, I'm just getting an urgent call. Sorry. So what I'm saying, these assumptions of normality, zero mean, constant variance, independence of successive observations, and also independence of the independent variable. These are all very important assumptions about the random disturbance term, and when we go for applying the method of ordinary least squares and estimating the regression models, after estimation we carry out several statistical tests to see if these assumptions are valid. Now, why? The importance of validity of these assumptions are mentioned here. As I said, if the random disturbance term doesn't follow normal distribution, then statistical tests will not be applicable. As some of you pointed out in the previous class, I will have a session on statistical tests and how different test statistics are linked to this assumption of normality. Once the estimation part is over, when we go for discussion on statistical tests, we'll devote one class to have detailed discussion on various statistical test statistics and how they are linked with this normality assumption. Now, if the conditional mean of the random disturbance term, if it is not constant, if mathematical expectation of ui given xi is not equal to 0, then we end up with biased estimators. If the conditional variance is not constant, we end up with the problem of heteroscedasticity. Actually, the assumption of constant variance is the assumption of homoscedasticity. And if this assumption is violated, then we end up with the problem of heteroscedasticity. And when there is problem of heteroscedasticity, then OLS estimators will be inefficient. Now, if successive observations of the random disturbance term, if they are not independent of each other, then we end up with the problem of autocorrelation. And again, there is inefficient estimator. Means when there is problem of autocorrelation, we end up having inefficient estimators. The other very important assumption is that the random disturbance term Ui would be independent of the independent variable. And if this assumption is violated, we end up with the problem of endogeneity, which results in inconsistent estimators. Now, as we discussed in the previous classes, the desirable properties of the estimators are they would be unbiased, they would be efficient, and they would be consistent. And when these assumptions are violated, these desirable properties don't hold. So regression analysis in this course will not focus only on estimation or testing of hypothesis. A large part of this course will also focus on understanding if these assumptions are valid, and if not, what are the different possible remedies that can be applied so that subsequently these assumptions hold and we have the estimators that fulfill the desirable properties of unbiasedness, efficiency, and consistency. So in fact, the process of econometric analysis in this course will have 5 major components, 5 major steps rather I would say. Model specification and measurement of variables, gathering data, this is one part. Second part is the estimation part. Third one is testing of hypothesis. Fourth one is examining and ensuring the validity of these assumptions. And fifth one is, of course, interpretation of the results and recognizing the limitations or possible concerns. So in this course, we will be basically focusing on these 5 major aspects. I repeat, model specification, variable measurement and data collection, Second one, estimation. Third one, testing of hypothesis. Fourth one is basically seeing the validity of these assumptions. And fifth one, how to interpret the results and recognize what can be done further. Now, what we'll do, we'll start with discussing the method of OLS. And when we go for discussing the method of OLS, we'll start with two basic concepts. One is the population regression function, this one, which is for the population. Excuse and me, maybe sir. Hypothetical.
Hello, right. Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, in this above point where you explained the problem of autocorrelation, which is actually inefficient, like the estimator is working inefficiently. So can you like explain it with an example? Like I understand what is yes.
So basically, you would like to know, I mean, what is meant by efficiency or inefficiency? What about inconsistency, etc.? Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when can we say an estimator to be unbiased? Suppose a parameter is theta. Okay. Suppose a parameter is theta. And we get the estimator theta hat. Now, if mathematical expectation of theta hat is equal to theta, then we say that theta hat is an unbiased estimator of theta. I'll add this aspect with this note before I upload. I repeat, suppose theta hat is an estimator of theta. Theta is what? About the population. It's a parameter. And what we do? We use sample. Based on data, we get theta hat. So theta hat is an estimated value of theta from the sample. Remember, theta is about the population. And theta hat we are getting from the sample. Now, if we go for repeated sampling, for every sample we will be getting a theta hat. Now, if we take that mathematical expectation of theta hat, and if it is equal to theta, then we say that theta hat is an unbiased estimator of theta. Now, what about inconsistency? It is slightly different from unbiasedness. Suppose theta hat is an estimator of theta. And if theta hat tends to theta as n tends to infinity, means if we increase the sample size, and if subsequently theta hat approaches towards theta, then we say that theta hat is a consistent estimator of theta. It is basically an asymptotic property. So as n tends to infinity, if theta hat tends to theta, then we say that theta hat is a consistent estimator of theta. Now suppose there are many unbiased estimators of theta. If theta hat has the minimum variance among all these unbiased estimators, then we'll say that theta hat is an efficient estimator of theta. Okay, so when expectation of theta hat is equal to theta, then theta hat is an unbiased estimator of theta. When theta hat tends to infinity, theta hat tends to theta as n tends to infinity, then we say that theta hat is a consistent estimator. And when theta hat has the minimum variance amongst all the unbiased estimators of theta, then we say that this is efficient estimator. Is it clear? Hello, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Sir,
yes.
can you once repeat those steps which you told for analysis?
Okay. I had already discussed about the diagram. Did you attend the previous classes?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. That is the same one. Okay, sir. Then
No,
it is fine.
there we have discussed all these things in detail, right? I'm just summarizing. I'm classifying all these steps into 5 broad groups. One is model specification, data collection and measurement of the variables, right? I will specify the model. What is my dependent variable?
Yes,
What are my independent variables? What type of data I need and how will I go for measuring the variables? Am I right? So the first step is basically about model specification, collecting data and measuring the variables. The second important step is basically estimation of the parameters. Once you get the data and measure the variables, now you go for estimating the parameters. Third step is basically testing of hypothesis. Now here, I would say that in addition to testing of hypothesis of the parameters or the coefficients that you estimate, you also need to ensure that all the assumptions that we have made about the random disturbance term, these assumptions are valid. That means testing for validity of the assumptions. So this is the fourth important aspect. And the fifth one is interpretation of the results. And here I would emphasize a lot on how to interpret the results. Because here we are not simply talking about regression analysis, we are talking about econometric analysis. So having intuitions will also be very, very important. Why are we getting the results like this? Suppose you are estimating a model and you expect that when I estimate a demand function with quantity demanded being the dependent variable and price being the independent variable, it is expected that the slope coefficient that would be negative. It would be statistically significant and negative. Because we have studied that there is an inverse relationship between the price of a commodity and its quantity demanded, other things remaining the same. Now, suppose in a particular case, you are getting this coefficient not being statistically significant. Let us assume that rest of the aspects are okay. There are some other variables. Some other variables have statistically significant coefficient, but this variable doesn't have. If this is the case, we need to understand why is it so. Why we are getting no significant impact of price of a commodity on its quantity demanded. Often you may see some regression results where either the slope coefficients are not statistically, some of the slope coefficients are not statistically significant, or they have different sign vis-a-vis what we hypothesize. So having a logical discussion on why are we getting some such results would also be very, very important. And in this course, we'll emphasize to a large extent on that aspect. Estimation part is definitely there, testing of hypothesis would be there, seeing the validity of the assumptions we'll also be discussing. But then, because it is a course on econometric analysis, I'll emphasize a lot on interpretation of the results as well. As students of economics, you should bring in arguments, intuitions based on whatever theories you have studied in different courses, or whatever examples you have studied in different courses. Is it okay? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
Professor.
Now, let us discuss about two very, very important concepts. One is the population regression function. Other one is the sample regression function. Now, a point along the population regression function here, say for example, this is the population regression function. A point along the population regression function corresponding to a particular value of x. So this point, what does it represent? This point basically represents mathematical expectation of yi given xi. Now, if this is the model, and if you take mathematical expectation of both the sides, then you can see mathematical expectation of yi given xi is nothing but alpha plus beta xi, as by assumption mathematical expectation of ui given xi is equal to 0. So any point along the population regression function basically represents the mathematical expectation of yi given xi. So corresponding to xi, as I have drawn here, corresponding to xi, the point along the population regression function will represent mathematical expectation of yi given xi, which is nothing but alpha plus beta xi. Okay. Therefore, the vertical distance between this observation yi, see, corresponding to xi, you will have the observation yi. So if this is the observation yi corresponding to xi, then this vertical distance between yi and this point along the population regression function is nothing but ui. Because what is yi? Yi is equal to alpha plus beta xi, which is nothing but, I have written here, which is nothing but mathematical expectation of yi given xi, this, and then I need to add ui. So corresponding to xi, we have the value yi, which is equal to alpha plus beta xi plus ui. Therefore, this vertical distance is nothing but ui. So I can write yi is equal to mathematical expectation of yi given xi plus ui. Now, if I take the corresponding point along the sample regression function, then what do I get? Now, a point along the sample regression function is nothing but the estimated y, which is y hat I, which is nothing but alpha hat, that is the estimated alpha, and beta hat, which is estimated beta into xi. So y hat I is equal to alpha hat plus beta hat xi. What we are getting basically from the sample. So any point along the sample regression function, it basically represents alpha hat plus beta hat xi. And hence, what is this vertical distance? This vertical distance between yi and the corresponding point along the sample regression function is nothing but estimated ui, what we call the residual. Here is the difference between ui and u hat I. Ui is basically the theoretical value which is unknown, and u hat I is basically the estimated value. And you can see the difference between the two that I have highlighted here. You can see the difference between the two. Yi is equal to mathematical expectation of yi given xi plus ui, which can also be written as y hat I plus u hat I. So there is a difference between ui and u hat I. Given xi, ui basically represents the vertical distance between yi and the corresponding point along the population regression function, whereas u hat I represents the vertical distance between yi and the corresponding point on the sample regression function. So u hat I is nothing but estimated ui from the sample. So henceforth, what we'll do, we'll keep this distinction in mind while carrying out the subsequent discussions. We shouldn't mix up ui and u hat I. Okay. Now, what we are trying to do in the method of OLS? In the method of OLS, we basically try to minimize total error. Because this is with respect to xi. So for every xi, what we are talking about here, u hat I, sorry, this is corresponding to xi. So for every xi, we'll commit some error like this. So in method of OLS, we basically try to minimize the total error. But then again, this is not simply minimizing sum of u hat I. There are two interpretations. One, mathematically, we say that we cannot minimize sum of u hat I because it is equal to 0. I'll prove later on that sum of u hat I is equal to 0. Some errors, some residuals will be basically positive. Some would be negative. So we are basically trying to minimize sum of u hat I square, because sum of u hat I is equal to 0.
Sir, how did we conclude yi equal to yi hat plus ui hat?
This one.
Yes, sir.
This is basically from here. You see, this is yi, this is y hat I, and the vertical distance we are calling u hat I. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Because this is with respect to the PRF, population regression function, this ui, what we don't know. So we use sample and then we get this vertical distance, which is nothing but
basically ui hat is the estimated value for ui.
exactly.
But
Because you don't
sample,
know ui.
but like if we are doing random sampling, but then that would change with every sample. So would we take the average kind of?
I'm coming to that point. For every xi, you will be having a corresponding u hat I. Am I right? Am I right? For
Yes,
every
sir.
xi, you will have a corresponding yi and then corresponding u hat I. Now, what is happening? What you are saying, I'm coming to that point. Now, what we are getting here, summation of u hat I is equal to 0. I'll just show after some time that this summation is equal to 0. So what we do, we don't minimize summation of u hat I. Rather, we minimize summation of u hat I square. Now, again, whether this is not exactly averaging, I would say this is some kind of assigning weights. What we are doing actually, we are minimizing summation of u hat I square. That is summation of u hat I into u hat I. So one way of looking at this approach may be that we are assigning higher weight to larger residual. We are assigning higher weight to larger residual because we are minimizing u hat I into u hat I. In method of OLS, what basically we try to do, we try to get the value of alpha and beta that are nothing but alpha hat and beta hat respectively, for which summation of u hat I square is equal to 0. Sorry, minimum. Recognizing the fact that summation of u hat I is equal to 0. So what we are doing here, this is the model. This is what we are trying to minimize. Remember, yi is equal to y hat I plus u hat I. That means u hat I is equal to yi minus y hat I. That means u hat I square summation is equal to summation of this square, because we know y hat I is nothing but alpha hat plus beta hat xi.
Sir, I had a doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, sir, why does the population regression function even exist? Like, why is yi not on the population regression function? Why is it above that?
No, this is a hypothetical relationship. And this is an observation, yi. Right? See, what basically a regression function represents? A regression function basically represents the average. Let me give an example. Suppose I have 100 income levels in the data set. 100 different income levels. And for every income level, there will be some households. So for a particular income level per month, say 10,000 rupees, there are 500 households. Now, do you think all these households have the same consumption expenditure even if they have the same income level? Definitely not. So even if say 500 households are having the same income level 10,000 rupees per month, their consumption expenditure will differ. So corresponding to this income level xi, right? Corresponding to this income level xi, there would be different level of consumption expenditure corresponding to this income level. So given this income level, there will be different consumption expenditures. And they would be scattered along this line. Now this regression function basically represents the average of that. You might have studied that if there are two variables x and y, then the estimate, then the regression line basically passes through what? X bar, y bar. What basically we are trying to say here, a regression line basically represents the average. The problem here is that if this is the regression function, then neither we know alpha nor beta. We don't know alpha or beta because we don't know the population. So we don't know alpha and beta, so we don't know the population regression function. But we hypothesize that this is the population regression function. Now, actual observations will be basically scattered around that line. And through the process of averaging, based on sample data, we'll be basically getting the sample regression function. Are you getting? So there is every possibility that the observations yi will be away from the line. There may be a coincidence, but that observation lies exactly on the line in some cases. If it lies on the line, then definitely ui will be equal to 0. If it deviates, then ui will be different from 0. But there are possibilities of deviations because regression line basically represents the average. Is it okay?
Yes, I understood.
So let us see what we are getting. We are trying to minimize this summation of u hat I square with respect to alpha hat and beta hat. So for every value of alpha and beta hat, we will be getting the corresponding value of summation of u hat I square, and we will pick up that one for which it is minimum. But interestingly, these are actually called the normal equations. Here, when we are differentiating with respect to alpha hat, we are getting the first normal equation, and when we are differentiating it with respect to beta hat, we are getting the second normal equation. Right? So we have two coefficients here and we are getting two normal equations. But interestingly,
Sir, can you
yes,
graphically explain what do you mean by these normal equations? Like,
this is what? That summation of u hat I is equal to 0.
sir, that is fine, but can you like graphically represent it, like how it is going to look like if we use that function as a base then, like along those lines?
This line.
Yes, sir. Like, what do you mean by these like two lines?
Basically, see here what is happening. So suppose you have alpha hat. You have different values of alpha hat. different possible values of alpha hat.
Yes, sir.
Now, corresponding to different possible values of alpha hat, you will be getting, given the value of beta hat, you will be getting corresponding summation of u hat I square, right?
Yes, sir.
So corresponding to different value of alpha hat given the value of beta hat, you will be getting the corresponding value of summation of u hat I square. Now, if you map that, then you will be getting a plot.
Yes, sir.
This is basically what we are trying to talk about here. Similarly, given the value of alpha hat, corresponding to different values of beta hat, you will be getting respective value of summation of u hat I square. Again, you can map that. Now,
Okay, sir. Got it.
you are picking up that alpha hat or beta hat for which the summation is minimum. But the derived properties are very interesting actually. One property is summation of u hat I is equal to 0. Now, if summation of u hat I is equal to 0, then u hat bar is also equal to 0. You divide it by n and then you will get 0. Now, this basically is the sample counterpart of this assumption. Here, what did you assume? The conditional mean of ui is equal to 0. This is for the population. Remember, ui is for the population. And when you use sample and estimate the function, the sample counterpart is u hat bar is equal to 0. Because from this equation we are getting summation of u hat I is equal to 0. In the same way, from the second equation we are getting summation of u hat I xi is equal to 0. And again, this corresponds to this assumption for the population. We had assumed here that mathematical expectation of xi ui is equal to 0. This we had assumed for the population. And using sample, we are getting, by applying the method of OLS, we are getting summation of u hat I xi equals to 0. And then there would be some very, very interesting properties following these two. What happens if we combine these two? If we combine these two, interestingly what we get, summation of u hat I, y hat I is equal to 0. That means u hat I and y hat I, they are independent of each other. How are you getting it? Through this simplification. See, summation of u hat I, y hat I is equal to summation of u hat I into y hat I can replace as alpha hat plus beta hat xi. And as I go for further simplification, I'm getting alpha hat into summation of u hat I plus beta hat into summation of u hat I xi. Now, here already I have got summation of u hat I is equal to 0. So this is equal to 0, this is equal to 0, and hence the sum is equal to 0. So what we are basically getting here is that u hat I, that is the residual, and the estimated y, they are independent of each other. Like that, there will be many interesting derivations. We'll discuss on that further in tomorrow's class. So what I'll do today, I'll add this part, whatever we have discussed so far, along with what we had discussed in the last lab class. And in tomorrow's class, we'll basically continue with this. So I'll stop here, and I would suggest you to see the books as I have mentioned in the class. The book by Damodar Gujarati, you can see, by G.S. Madala,